I'm on mute. I just noticed. Hey everyone, welcome to our next gin tasting. We've aptly called the Newcomers, which is just essentially newcomer gins to CraftGins, our gin website. So as you guys are starting to come in, if you can just obviously drop us a comment in the comments, just so I know everyone's getting in okay. Good. I know we've got quite a few on today, but quite a few watching from the same households, which is to work out numbers. So as usual, I will just leave you guys here in the holding room for 2 secs while I just check and make sure everyone's coming through. No one's got lost into our socials. Everyone did have a link, so we hope that everyone's come straight through. Just in case, I just want to check and make sure everyone is finding us okay. So I'll be back in 2 secs. Where's my screen gone? There we are. Yeah, cool. It looks like everyone is coming in okay, which is great. So I hope everyone had a good week. We're getting very, very close to getting a bit of freedom back, which is exciting, even for us at the shop. So Tomoka will be back essentially to normal hours from next week onwards. So I know we've been operating slightly shorter hours, kind of just being in, we've been packing up just nothing but these tasting sets essentially. But we'll be going back to normal shopping hours, and hopefully there's plenty of people out shopping as well. So that'll be something we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But today, we've got very interesting tasting. Essentially, these are all products that are new, just not new generally to the market. Some haven't been out for a while, but they're new to us at Tomoka and CraftGins. Very good range. We've also got a lot to get through in the sense of we don't have just one, we don't have two, we have 4 guests this evening. So we've essentially got people from each brand we've got on, which is fantastic. So Jas has got a lot to get through. So without further ado, I will bring Jas on. And he can introduce the first guest to you, and then we'll get going with some fabulous gins. Always remember as well, guys, comment as much as you can, which we generally do. We get a lot of interaction, which is always fantastic. Let us know your nose notes, your tasting notes, the differences between tasting it neat and getting your tonics. At the end, remember, you always get 15% off. So on the back of your tasting card, you've got 15% to use on our website against any of the gins that you sample tonight. Every single product is online, ready to go. Pick your favorite for in the evening or your favorite for you, and buy those after. Let me just bring Jas into the stream. Hello.
Hey, you right?
Yeah, good. So like I say, it looks like everyone's in the holding room. We've got James there, we've got Braden, we've got Jason. I can see Sandeep's waiting there as well. So I'll leave it with you to get straight on. And as soon as you're ready for James, I believe is first, I will get him on the screen with you.
Cool. All right. Hey, evening all. Friday night gin tasting. Thanks for joining us. If you are joining us with your gin tasting kits, or you're just watching and seeing what's going on, welcome to all. As Shane said, he's pretty much covered it. We're kind of introducing new gins to our portfolio of products, both online and in store. Hey Raj, how you doing? So we may as well just kick off, right? Because I know all our guests, I don't want to keep them waiting, and we've got a lot to get through. So why don't we bring James on first, and he'll tell you about our first gin. This is bottle number 1. Hey James, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here. Perfect way to spend a Friday night, hey?
Absolutely. So look, I'm just going to pass it over. James, tell us about you, your brand, and I'll just hold this bottle so people can see what we're going to be trying.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my name is James. I'm a co-founder and MD of Foxhole Spirits. We started Foxhole Spirits back in 2016, really with a mission to kind of use surplus raw materials to create incredible spirits. And the kind of mission has evolved so much since our first launch of Foxhole Gin, and become this really kind of wide sort of, we can kind of span lots of different categories, finding surplus materials to use. So in 2016, we launched a product called Foxhole Gin. We identified that through English wine production, that about 30% of the juice is left in the skins of the grapes, and we figured there must be something interesting that you can do with it instead of kind of chucking it on the compost heap or throwing it away. So we partnered up with a winery down in West Sussex, and started collecting up this juice. It's essentially the same juice that's in the grape that they make the wine with. It's just that pressing out that last part for them just extracts too much tannin and too much bitterness for the wine. But for us, it doesn't make any difference because we can just knock that out in the still. So we worked really hard to kind of develop this this method to create a gin out of surplus raw material. So we press the grapes, we take that juice, we ferment that into a wine, which actually tastes quite nice. It's quite pleasant. You've got to start with good ingredients, I suppose. So we quite carefully control the fermentation, making sure we're preserving the right characters. We then strip that back to a grape spirit in the still. We then blend that with a little bit of grain spirit just to balance the character, because grape spirit itself, as you probably have tasted with like an eau de vie or something like that, is seriously potent and very powerful in flavor. And the botanical recipes of all of our products are designed to kind of complement those natural raw characteristics of the grape spirit itself. So Foxhole Gin was great. And then in, I think it must have been March 2018, I got a call from an amazing lady called Karen, who is the grape technical manager at a company called Richard Hochfeld Limited, who are over in Kent. They import grapes from 13 countries around the world. The key difference here, these are the grapes that you eat, the ones that you buy in the supermarket. They're not wine grapes. They bring them in bulk, and they package them into those little punnets that we all buy grapes from in the supermarket. And just kind of naturally through the process of packing them, grapes fall off the bunch on the conveyor belt, or they have to trim the bunch a little bit to fit in the punnet. So they generate what to them is a very small amount of surplus. It's about 1% of their production. It's tiny, but it's still a lot of grapes. And so Karen phoned me up with an idea, really, of can we turn these surplus table grapes into a gin? And we started working on Hike Gin, which, turns out you can, and it's really, really delicious. So we launched Hike in March 2019 on World Recycling Day. The whole point of our business really is to identify these surplus materials and be able to create kind of world-beating, award-winning spirits out of them to prove that 30% of food that's wasted in the UK, we can use it, we can distill it, we can turn it into great stuff. And a continuation of that really is the Hike Signature series. So I hope everybody has their sample. I also hope everybody has poured their sample already, has got it in a glass like me, so we can all have a little taste. But the whole point of the Signature series really is it's an excuse for us to use more surplus raw material. So Hike Orange is our first launch. It is essentially the base is the same as Hike Gin, but we identified a supplier who supplies cut oranges for salads into the supermarkets. We take the peel. So normally the peel gets chucked away, essentially. So we go and pick it up from them, anything that they've got that they're not using, and we macerate that peel into Hike Gin for about normally 4 or 5 days. Really depends on the variety of the orange and the season, because we produce all year round. The oranges are slightly different, so we're just constantly tasting. And then we add an additional botanical recipe into the mix. Reason behind that, as I'm hoping you can all smell, you've got that kind of orange and juniper kind of dominant characters like you'd expect in a gin, particularly a flavored gin. But that balance is really, really important to us. And at the end of the day, you know, we don't want to create a flavored gin that's kind of super kind of sweet and sticky and just is dominated by orange. We're always looking for that little bit of balance behind it. So yeah, it's you can really obviously smell the orange, but there's a lot of spice in there.
Yeah,
so
that orange really comes through, but it's as you say, it's almost that waxiness is like that you can tell it's the peel.
Yeah, you can. Beautiful. Definitely. And you get a real kind of richness and viscosity from our base spirit being made from grapes as well, which kind of rounds off a lot of the characteristics. But yeah, it's kind of this, we sort of approach it, as soon as you macerate something like orange into a gin, the sweetness just goes through the roof. You know, it's pretty crazy. So we then look at how we can balance that back out with some more savory botanicals. So we created an additional botanical maceration, which we blend back in at the end, which has got a little bit extra of some of the botanicals we use in hike, plus a little bit of sandalwood, just to give it a slightly kind of, it's not really woody, but it just gives it a kind of extra complexity to it.
Yeah.
We get a lot of color as well from the sandalwood as well, which is great because the color is completely natural. We're not using any colorants at all. And on the palate, you get kind of the dominant orange, but it's meant to be relatively dry. You've got a hint of sweetness in there to lift the citrus, but it's just a little bit dry. And we do sweeten at the very, very end with a tiny bit of something called reconstituted grape must. And really, it's always our goal to use up as much of the raw material as possible. So RCGM is essentially the skins boiled off to leave the sugars. And that's then what we use just to balance it at the very end with a little bit of sweetness. So it's really just aiming to use kind of as much of this surplus raw material as possible.
Yeah, it's amazing. Let's go for a taste, because lots of people are coming out with some of those sort of lovely sort of spicy notes as well, that they're picking up after the orange. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the taste is like. Let's go for a. It's very, very creamy, isn't it?
It's super creamy. Yeah,
really creamy.
And it's all the grapes. It really is. You know, a lot of gins get a lot of oils from the botanicals. We obviously get quite a bit as well, but if you were to just taste that pure grape spirit, it's like cream on your palate. It's just so viscous and thick.
Yeah.
And we're able to carry that through all the way into the final kind of product and the final gin. And it just helps support all of those botanicals, you know, and all of that flavor and all that characteristic.
That orange really coats your palate because you get the sweetness. You get a bit of that sweetness. That could be the grape must that you were talking about, perhaps.
Yep.
On the tip of your tongue, or the orange, and then there's that lovely heat as well. Maybe there's some of that spice that you were talking about as well. That's kind of sitting there just afterwards.
I was really inspired once by there's an amazing restaurant down the road from where I live called Babur in southeast London, and they made this incredible kind of a spiced Negroni with quite a lot of clove in it, but lots of Indian spices, and really that kind of flavor characteristic I've been wanting to capture in something for such a long time. This really was an opportunity for us to be able to kind of take some of that spice element, balance it with the kind of sweetness you get from the orange, just create something that's actually like really quite complex and not super one-dimensional like a lot of flavored gins can be, where you really just get the dominant raspberry or the dominant orange. And then particularly when you mix the tonic in, it just rounds the whole thing off. You know, you want orange, it's an orange gin. If you buy gin, it's got to be orange. But there's a journey to go through when you're tasting it. It's just not kind of that single, you know, dimension of being kind of a fruity gin. There's just so much extra going on. And
well, let's do that. Let's add some tonic.
Awesome.
Go on, you were going to say?
I
You were
was
saying?
probably just going to say everyone should add some tonic and get
Let's
drinks.
do it. So Raj made a comment which was, it's not like a marmalade gin, which is, I kind of get what he's saying, in that when you nose it, you expect it to be all orange, right? But then when you taste it, there's so much more to it. It's almost like the orange is just another ingredient within the flavor of the gin.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it's meant to be. You know, everything is meant to sort of support each other, you know, and create this kind of balance. Yeah, it's a great approach. You know, we really enjoy that kind of approach to all of our products, really, in just trying to balance things out, not make things too dominant, but equally, it's, you know, it's got to have an identity, and yeah, that's I think what we've been able to achieve really nicely with this.
Definitely. So so it's actually opened up a touch now with the tonic.
Yeah, the tonic just tends to kind of widen out the botanicals, and it's really that key sort of journey that we look for. I mean, the whole premise of Hike as a brand and as a product is about the journey, and it's about, you know, grapes coming from all over the world, landing here in the UK. They go off through their kind of normal journey of being sent to the supermarkets and people buy them, but then what's that additional journey that surplus kind of goes through? And we really like that as a concept, as an idea, and an idea is that, you know, we take inspiration. The Hike Gin botanical recipe is inspired by those 13 countries. So we get the grapes come from Egypt, South America, South Africa. We make a rooibos tea, which we add in as part of the botanicals, obviously very South African inspired. We use a fair bit of coriander, being kind of South American inspired. We use lots of cardamom, which isn't like a dominant character. You wouldn't ever put it as kind of being like a cardamom gin, but it's just there to kind of support that spice element. And we like that concept of kind of the journey that the products go on. And we hope that, you know, when somebody tastes it and you get that initial kind of, whether it's with this, you get that kind of initial orange, but the longer it's kind of diluting in your palate and the longer it's staying there and the longer that finishes, you go through this little journey of flavor and different things pop out along the way. And I like that. I think it's just such a nice kind of way to enjoy spirits.
Absolutely. And this, I think, on a summer's day, loads of ice would be a brilliant. Guys, let's add the garnish. So we should have an orange, right? And as usual, we take the peel. So just cut a piece of the peel off like so. And then I'm just going to take it between my two fingers and my thumb, and I'm just going to squeeze it over the glass and let those lovely oils wash out before I just drop the peel in. And it'll kind of just lift up some of that orange again. And actually, James, I'm gonna ask everyone to add a bit of ginger, maybe, because we've got some ginger, and I was going to save it for one of the other gins, which we will do, but I just think it might work quite well with this now we've tasted it.
I think you're right. We've got a few comments about which tonic to use.
Okay. Yeah, so use the I've actually had to use a Mediterranean, but I was going to say use the regular tonic. You've got a regular tonic can, the classic Fever Tree Indian tonic. So I'm going to say use that for this gin, and then we're going to add a piece of the orange, and I'm just going to add a piece of ginger as well, just a little piece of ginger, and I think that'll just work actually quite nicely with the rest of the gin and all those lovely sort of complex layers that it's got going on. So what made you I mean, was orange something that you were actually looking for, or is it just because it just happened to come about?
It's quite an interesting story, actually. But so we have a botanical rum called Mad City that we launched in July last year, and we make that from molasses. So we take the kind of byproducts of the sugar industry, and we make incredible rums. You know, most rums are made from molasses anyway, but it was just a base spirit that made so much sense for us to use as a brand. And one of the kind of core elements of what we're continually trying to do is all the botanicals, we're always trying to source a more sustainable way of finding them and discovering them. And one of the botanicals in Mad City that's quite prominent really is orange. And through that journey of trying to find kind of surplus oranges, we found an opportunity to be able to take quite a lot of surplus oranges, and realized there's a lot more potential here than just using it as a botanical in a single product. We can actually take something like Hike Gin, create the Hike Gin signature series, and use even more of the oranges that are available to us. And that's kind of always the methodology, really, is, you know, coming across or discovering or identifying these kind of surplus raw materials and using as much as we can. I think our biggest success to date has been finding surplus coconut, which is a botanical in Mad City, and that was tough trying to find surplus coconut, but we got there. We found it.
Amazing. Can you keep finding it? That's the question.
Well, yeah, it seems that you can. I mean, there's obviously amazing spirits out there that use kind of grown for, you know, materials specifically for the spirits, but, you know, 30% is a massive number of kind of available surplus produce. If you roll that out across whether it's kind of grains or apples or oranges or grapes or whatever it is, somewhere there's an untapped resource that we can kind of work with and on to create great spirits from. And that's essentially what we're always trying to do, is find and discover these new ways to get really amazing raw material and make great spirits.
Yeah. Well, look, James, people are really loving it.
Yeah, I'm seeing people are enjoying the ginger. I really need to get on that and try it.
I really like it. I'm not a fan. I'll throw out there, I'm not a fan of orange flavored gins necessarily, but this one actually, because it's not just about orange, there's so much more to it. I think it's really good. I think it's really good, and I'm glad.
This is what I like to hear. You know,
yes.
Honestly, I'm not a massive fan of flavored gins, but I think our approach to it, and, you know, it kind of being that reason, there's a real why. You know, why are we making this flavored gin? It's not because we just want to expand the portfolio. It's because it gives us an excuse to use much more of this surplus. And I think what it's shown me through this development, you know, about a year's worth of development for this product, is you can make really great flavored gin. It just really depends on what your approach is.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that grape spirit is genius. I think that really helps define you as a brand, in terms of something that's quite creamy in texture and you know, adds to the actual gin itself. It's good.
I mean, and the numbers are great. You know, we've so far, since the launch of Hike and World Recycling Day, March 2019, is 5.3 million grapes that we've managed to reclaim and make great spirits out of. And you know, when we kind of put those numbers together and we think, actually, that's quite a lot of grapes. And
that's a lot of grapes.
For me and the team, you know, that's what makes us really proud. And yeah, it's awesome.
Brilliant, James. Thank you very much. I know you have to go. But to the guys, look, there it is one more time. That's Hike Orange Gin. That's what you've been tasting. We have it on site. We'll also have the regular Hike in as well, very soon. So look out for that as well. But James, thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thank you to everybody watching as well, and thank you for your lovely comments. Amazing, and you're going to have a great night with everybody else. I wish I could stay.
No worries. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, James. Nice to meet you.
Cheers. You too. Bye.
All right, good man. Thank you. So that was Hike Orange. Just some bits that we didn't really discuss there. In terms of glass, I'm using my regular tasting glass. If there's some new people here tonight, then maybe a glass, you know, something like this is also quite good, like a wine glass. Just for tasting purposes, it helps funnel the flavors and the aromas up. So when you're tasting, you can get, you know, that lovely flavor of the gin coming through. And in terms of ratio of tonic, again, we didn't cover that this time, but, you know, 2-to-1 or a 50-50 ratio, you know, of gin to tonic is a good number for when you're actually going to taste it. Obviously, if you're making a G&T, as you normally would do on a normal evening, you'd add lots of ice and more tonic, etc. But for tasting purposes, 50-50 or 2-to-1 works very well. So let's move on to our next gin, and another new one to us. I'm going to bring on Braden, who's come come to join us, and this is his funky looking design on the label.
Yeah.
And the gin is called Renegade. There you go, Brayden. Nice
Good
to meet
evening, everyone. Yeah, you too, mate. First time,
Yeah,
actually. We've talked on the
That's
phone a
right.
lot.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm good. I'm actually in Herefordshire
Okay.
tonight, so celebrating my wife's
Yeah,
birthday, as I
yeah,
mentioned.
yeah, absolutely.
But nothing like a tasting
Yeah, I know.
in the mix
She's very.
on a Friday
She must
night.
be a good lady if she let you jump into work halfway through. You know what's meant to be.
Oh, mate, we've been working together for 10 years, so you know. She
Good.
gets
So,
it.
Brayden, tell us. So, this is your first product, first gin.
Yeah. So it was actually our first product. But in fact, we made the vodka before we made that, and I'll get onto that in a bit. But yeah, I like to start by saying, Doghouse, we're in Battersea, but we're not part of the Dogs and Cats home.
Yeah.
I always, there's our, hang on, where am I going? That way. So there's our logo. People always say, oh, it's Doghouse. Are you part of the Dogs and Cats home? That's a lovely. No, we're not. But we are always in the doghouse. So that's our, people say to us, is it because the home? No, it's because we live there. We like to enjoy ourselves. I'm sure a few of us tonight will end up there. It's not a bad place to be. It's quite a warm place and rejoicing. Anyway, without further ado, why don't we put a little bit in the glass? Jas is leading the way there.
Well, I'm just letting it open up a little bit, but I want to hear about how you came about Doghouse and the brand.
Yeah. So why don't we start with the label? You're showing the label off. The label's quite dark. But I always say to people, I'm an Aussie, as you can probably tell, but the label is a full wrap label, and it starts at, in fact, Jas is doing it for me, but it starts at Battersea, and it works its way all the way through to Tower Bridge. And there's a bunch of new and old icons there. It's very London. And there's Tower Bridge at the end. There's the city. There's Trafalgar Square. There's buses. There's taxis. There's this and that. When we came up with the concept, we love music in the Doghouse, so we're all about music. I always say to people, if I had a choice and I was being sent to a deserted island and someone said you're only allowed to take one thing, I'd say music, and everyone says, oh, rubbish, you'd take booze first every day of the week. And I say, well, they're kind of they're together. Booze and music for me are always together. So when we started the concept of Doghouse, it was always about booze and music. Would I take booze? Would I take music? The debate's out. I haven't been sent to an island yet. But yeah, so for the label itself was about creating something that was very London, but it was also rock and roll.
Yeah.
The label's inspired by rock and roll artists have tattoos. And so when we came up with the label concept, we decided to go to a tattoo artist and say, can you do us a label? Of which he said, no, I can do you a sleeve, but I can't do a label. Anyway, eventually we convinced him, and that's where we came up with our label. I will say the label and the liquid are quite different. And I always get this comment a lot, actually. The label's quite dark and a little bit gothic, actually. And in fact, some people don't like it. Some people love it. We're dividing, hence the name. Renegade is not meant to be, it's meant to be itself. So, if you like it, we find most people like it, they love it. They don't just like it, they love it. And we wanted to make it, have a little bit of bold, but a little bit of soft as well. But the label is very much about London and its history, industrial times. We're from Battersea. It's a very raw and industrial area. And so if we did a really light and flowery sort of label, it just wouldn't suit our vibe, number one, but also you wouldn't be calling it Renegade Gin. So I like to get that out of the way first. Obviously, the liquid is number one, but I hope you've all got it in the glass as Jas is doing, warming it up, getting it, to express itself. The one thing when you pop a bottle of Renegade is it fills the room with its aroma. It's very aromatic.
Yeah.
And that's sort of something we really wanted to achieve. And I can talk about how we did that, but the main reason we wanted to achieve that is because they say wine, 70% of a good wine is in the nose. And it's not as probably pertinent in spirits, because spirits have ethanol, which can be quite can interrupt that sort of flavor on the nose, whereas wine's quite low ABV. So but yeah, we just wanted to bust out with lots of aromatics, give you a real leafy, heavy juniper, but leafy, sort of herby kind of aromas. And entice you to have a drink. And if somebody is not having a drink of that, then they're going to look at your glass and go, what are they drinking?
Yeah. It's all there, right? Some people have said, I think Donna said arrowroot is kind of what she's getting.
Yeah.
But I totally get it. There's this earthiness, it's real herby, but you get that lovely juniper punch as well.
Yeah. When we started out, we basically I wasn't a distiller. I came from I owned a pub. I actually started Brisbane's first craft beer pub. In 2011, we were the first people that went all independent. We told the big guys to get lost. I put in 8 taps of my own. I had no contracts, no nothing. I went around 100 miles from Brisbane and found breweries that no one had ever heard of, and I started supporting them. And it wasn't just about supporting local. It had to be good. Like I wasn't going in and picking something that was rubbish. I was finding guys that knew what they were doing, but I wanted to support guys because they don't have a place to sell their booze and the rest of it. So we took them in, and we gave them a place. But then we learned how to make beer, which is why part of our ethos is grain to glass. We can talk about that later because we're talking about gin, but the grain to glass thing is very dear to my heart. And so when we started making this, we really went back to something like Tanqueray, and we said, I wasn't a distiller, I had to learn. So I said, well, what is Tanqueray? And Tanqueray is 4 botanicals. To me, value for money, it's pretty hard to beat it if you want just a house sort of pour. So we started there, and then we looked at some of the things that guys like Beefeater were doing, bigger guys that were adding in some licorice or some this and that, some citrus, and then we built off that. But basically we did sort of 80, 90 different trials, small batch trials, and we ended up at 14 botanicals. I wanted it as low as possible.
Did you? Okay. Why is that?
I just wanted it to be, some people have amazing palates and some people don't. And, some people have trained palates and some people will never, so the world is quite diverse. So we just wanted it to be simple, but, right in your face. It's like, that's what it does. It's not trying to be too many things. And so, our focus was, right, what is gin? It's juniper. So let's make sure it's got lots of juniper. And then how do we differentiate it? There's lots of citrus forward gins coming out. There was lots of different things coming out in terms of spicy things. London Dry is obviously a very, very juniper forward dry style, but it had been done a lot. So we wanted to create something a little bit different. So we added in some green leafy things. And I still describe them as green leafy things.
What specifically do you mean by green leafy things?
So I'm talking about things like bay leaves.
Yeah.
And we used lots of them. Not the little packets you get at the shop, but 20 kilo bags of them. But we use a lot of bay leaf. We use a lot of green cardamom, sage.
Yeah.
winter savory, and you know, various things which just lift up the palate. Now, we're having a look at it, Need, and why don't we've had a little nose, hopefully.
Let's do it.
Why don't we have a little sip? And to the people watching, I mean, and you guys follow these guys, and Jazz knows what he's talking about, but you know, it's always good to leave a spirit in the mouth for a couple of seconds at least. Put it in the back, in the sides.
Yeah.
Put it all over. You don't need to aerate it like wine, but you know, just let it sit in there and gestate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have a sip. I always find my second sip, obviously we don't need to do that right away, but I always find my second sip tells me truly what it is.
Yeah. The first one is always just to get your palate used to the.
Exactly. So it's like, what was I doing before?
Yeah.
You get bits of it, but you know, it's always a second one. I also find it's quite nice to nose something, but then also to just breathe in lightly through your mouth. So put the glass to your nose and breathe in lightly through your mouth, and you'll smell soft things, light things. You know, if you don't play the didgeridoo, then if you play the didgeridoo, then you can breathe in your mouth and your nose at the same time, or at different times. But normally, most humans will breathe in through both. So if you breathe in through your mouth, your nose will breathe ever so lightly. I picked that up off a 24-year-old bartender.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I always use that, and I like to nose both ways when I'm nosing spirits, because ethanol can sometimes override some of the lighter aromas and things. So you might get, you know, depending on your nose, you might get some little of those soft aromas, but you definitely won't taste some of the light things until we put tonic, because the bubbles will lift that up. But you know, when you drink it, I'm interested to see what the guys think, but also you, Jasper. You get more of the heavier flavors like you would expect when you drink it, Nick.
Yeah. So a lot of people are saying, people are mentioning the mint. Some people say the coriander. A lot of people say cardamom at the start as well. So they're getting those lovely sort of spicy notes, but that green, I think, is really what comes through. And someone said mint, and I absolutely know what they mean by that. I'm not sure if there's mint in there, but I totally get that mint, that freshness.
It's interesting. There isn't mint in there, but it is quite interesting. We use a thing called winter savory, and it's if I've tried it, I've put some boiling water in it, and it's quite minty. So I think that's what they're tasting. But again, we use a lot of you know, we use those mixture. There's actually 2 secret botanicals in Renegade. So of the 14, we only ever tell people 12. We do that to protect our gin.
Yeah.
Who knows if it works or not? But yeah, there's one of those 2 is quite leafy. So yeah, there's a secret leafy thing, but that's very good palate to pick up that mint. It's definitely not mint, but there's that winter savory is quite minty.
Yeah. No, it's lovely and fresh. Really good. Really good.
Fresh and vibrant, which is contrary to the label, right?
Yeah.
And that's the sort of discussion I have with people. You know, some people look at the label and they think that's dark, that looks like rum or bourbon or what, you know. And I always say to them, well, we wanted to stand out, and in actual fact, we care about liquid. Liquid is number one.
Yeah.
So for us, the label is how we do our hair. You know, if you don't like that, fine. You do yours differently. That's how we do our hair. But our personality is what makes us. So for us, it's always about the liquid. And we always go back to it, and we find some people, I even have people that tell me they don't like the label, they buy 2 bottles a week. So
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. But it's really different, right? Because you're right. The bottle packaging, the label gives you a certain image, and then you try it, and it's like, wow, it's just not what you expect.
No, very fresh, very vibrant. And you know, in a bit we'll have it with some tonic. It's the most sessionable gin around. I mean, I say that, and a lot of other people who make gin will say you're wrong. And of course, it's you know, there's no best gin on the planet. There's a gin for every time and place. But what I will say is, you know, why do we put bay leaf in a stew? Why do we use thyme or sage? We do it to cut through heavy flavors. So when I was developing the gin, and I was standing in the back garden, I'd had my 6 double Tanqueray, and I was thinking about, how do I freshen this up? How do I lighten it in my mouth? Because it was here.
Yeah.
And I wanted it to be here. You know, I didn't want a Shiraz. I wanted a Pinot.
Yeah.
And so I just had to pull it forward. And I thought about the kitchen, and I thought, what do you do if the food's too heavy? You know, you put a bit of cardamom, or you put a bit of bay, and I just thought, actually, that's it. So it's pulling it in. And so when we added that, we did another 20, 30 trials, but we were quite shocked, and we went, actually, we had it with tonic, and we went, oh, wow, it's here.
Yeah.
And so it's not sweet, and it's not bitter.
Yeah.
It's here.
Yeah.
So I can drink it all day.
Yeah.
I don't have to think about it. I don't have to think about having something else. I just have to sit there and, you know, and that's how I like to drink. I mean, not like I'm drinking all day, but I like to sit and be with friends and listen to music and have an amazing product. Doesn't have to be ours, but have an amazing product. But I do like to just sit there and forget about what I'm drinking.
Yes.
It's amazing. It has to be amazing, but I like to forget about it. And that was sort of what we, you know, the concept. And when we came up with that, we went, right, we know what we want.
Yeah. So did you scrap it again? Did you start again, or did you kind of just develop then what you had?
We developed where we were at.
Okay.
And where we were at was quite, you know, we'd started with, you know, juniper, coriander, angelica, orris. We had a bit of burdock in there. We added bitter orange. We had some lemon. You know, I've gone through 7 already. So we had that sort of there, core nucleus. And then we were played with licorice. I don't like aniseed, so I threw it out. You know, like, sorry, I've got to want to drink it too.
Yeah, of course.
And then we had some lavender in there. No, that's the aroma was just too flowers. There was flowers everywhere. So we threw that out. We had some different things. We tried to use nettle. You know, nettle grows. It's annoying. It hurts, but it grows wild in the UK and it's very cheap. So we thought, let's see what it tastes like. It's horrible stuff to distill. It is. It's right, just like it is in the paddock. Yeah. Terrible stuff. So, you know, we just sort of went there. Then we got to there, and then I had that moment where I thought, I actually worked out what I wanted because I'd had a bunch of Tanquerays, and no offense to Tanqueray, because I actually really think it's a great product. But it was, I wanted to have a beer, and or a Chardonnay or something to cleanse. So I actually had about 6 of them, but I needed something cleansing, and I thought, what if I could get the gin here?
Yeah.
I wouldn't need to leave.
Yeah.
And go somewhere else. And that was, so that was literally the thought process. And for us, we love it. You know, we have people at the distillery, and when we get, you know, when we party, we forget about what we're drinking.
Yeah.
And we can just enjoy it.
Well, let's add some tonic. So we're going to add some Fever Tree. We're going to do the Mediterranean this time.
Okay.
I can't remember. Did you suggest the normal tonic? Is that what you suggested? Can't remember.
Yeah, we normally use the normal. Yeah, I've got some here, just the normal. But the med. Oh, here we go.
There you go.
But I actually, I go through phases. I quite like it. In fact, someone gave me med tonic with little pink peppercorns. It was incredible.
Yeah.
It was off the hook. It was a bartender, and I was trying to sell him the product. And he said, "Try this." And I was like, "Wow."
Yeah.
Anyway, so med tonic pink peppercorn. If you've got some pink peppercorns, just try it. It's insane.
Okay, I'm going to give that a go.
Yeah, but the light tonic also works lovely. But I think Med Light normal. I think the three of them are all good go-tos on this one.
I just went with the Mediterranean because there is so much earthy, aromatics going on it. I thought it might work quite nicely, but we shall see. We shall find out.
Right. I'm going to make myself one here.
Yeah.
I'll pour my water out. And we always, I mean, you're an expert, so you'll have your own rules, but I'm sure they're the same as mine because we do this for a living. But we always pour a good chunk of gin in there, and then we just sort of spice it with tonic. Pepper it.
Yeah, and this is why I sort of push people away from those big balloon glasses, because it's just the ratio is all wrong.
Oh, it's wrong. Yeah. Well, look at what I'm using.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is what I would normally use, a wine glass.
Wines are fantastic too, because you get that it's coming up. Same with the old-fashioned highball, straight up. I've got a big nose, so I can smell anything. I won't talk about garnish, and in fact, I'll take that out for now. But yeah, just splash it with a bit of tonic. Worst case, sort of 1-to-1, and see you've tasted it neat. 1-to-1 it. Have a think about it. See, if the tonic's interacting too hard, then you might want to go, well, have I got the right one? If it's not, keep going, or taste it and have a think about it.
Nick, you might have to pick some basil. You might have got some. Nick asked if she needs to go and get some basil. Have you got any thyme? Because that's what we're going to add. We're actually going to add some thyme and orange.
Thyme's incredible. Thyme's actually probably the best thing to add to it. We went against thyme in the bar market because it's a pain in the backside. I was going to say that 4-letter word, but it's also expensive and it goes bad quite quickly. So we chose rosemary.
Okay, which is
it works lovely with rosemary. We don't use rosemary in the product, although some people think they taste rosemary as well with tonic. But yeah, it was more about, we don't use thyme either.
Okay.
But we do use sage and winter savory, as I said, green cardamom, bay. And yeah, thyme is, to me, the best garnish you can choose. But again, it's quite sticky and uninstagrammable sometimes, unless you're really clever. And so we chose the, really quite standard. But also, most kitchens have rosemary.
But this is it. This is very true.
So when you're thinking bar and selling into bars, rosemary, I think, the reason I like thyme more is rosemary's quite dominant. So if people are using rosemary with it, just, I've got a big long sprig there. I would make that about, I'd take that into my glass. Yeah. 1.5 inches maximum. Yeah. And I don't slap it or do, like, it's already already crazy enough. Yeah. And I would literally just drop it in the glass. With thyme, you can stir a little bit. It's lovely, actually. It's a lovely herb.
So we're actually going to start with an orange, right? We're going to use orange peel as we did before, and I'm going to squeeze it so those lovely oils burst out, and then I'm going to add a bit of the thyme. So, guys, if you have orange and you have thyme, then I'm going to say go with the combination of the two, and like Braden says, you just need a tiny piece for the amount that we have, and just drop that in, give it a swirl, and just let it open up over a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Is there something floral in there?
Sorry?
I was going to ask, is there something floral in your gin?
No.
Nothing at all?
Yeah, the only thing you're probably getting is a little bit of the burdock.
Maybe, okay.
Like burdock root. Burdock root can be 10 different things in 10 different times on a day. It's one of my favorite things. It's underrated, actually, but burdock, it can taste like licorice at one point.
Yeah.
But it can also taste quite floral. So I always think if you're getting floral, it's the burdock. And we use quite a heavy component of burdock, actually.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of it. It's subtle, but it's got these light, just lovely things. But yeah, nothing floral other than that. But you know, who knows? The combination of botanicals could bring up things we didn't even think of. So
there was just something that wafted through just before we added the tonic, and it was just lighter floral. So I thought maybe there was something in there, but could be that burdock.
I've gone back to the wine glass like you. I actually had ice in mine, which is sacrilege, but you know, I thought we were making
only for tasting, but I like the 42% actually. I mean, it'd be really interesting to try this as a navy. I think I don't know what your plans are, but
no, we've got a navy in the pipeline for later this year.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah, so we do a pink gin as well, which we're going to bring out in this range. It's been so successful. We're going to bring it into a core range, and the navy I'm working on. Yeah, and you're right. Yeah, you could. I mean, it's going to pack a serious punch, but it's going to be good.
Yeah, it lends itself quite nicely to it, I think.
How are you liking the Mediterranean tonic?
I do like it actually. I think it works. I just think it works with that. You know, some of those ingredients that you've got, those earthy aromatic kind of flavors. Just for clarification on the garnish, we use thyme. I know Braden had rosemary, so if you have got rosemary, then obviously you can use rosemary. But we use thyme, or I used thyme. But I guess it's, you know, much of a muchness, right? It's really, each one's going to change it a touch, but it's really the point is about lifting and bringing out some of those lovely earthy green notes that seem to be present.
Yeah, and one of the things obviously that creates earth is grains of paradise. And I know a lot of people use grains of paradise. I didn't mention it before, but it's one of our botanicals. And one of the things, I'm a massive wine fan. I love wine. And one of the things I love about wine is minerality and earth. And so, you know, when you're creating a new product and you're thinking about all these things, your mouthfeel, your palate, where do you want it, all that sort of stuff. Is it a Malbec? Is it this? Is it? I always go back to wine because people understand it more than a lot of other products. But it's you also want minerality. Grains of Paradise, which is a West African peppercorn. I don't know if you've tried it, Jas. Have you actually had one?
I have. I think
very
I tried
spicy.
It years ago.
Yeah, it's very spicy. Whenever people come to the distillery, I get one little peppercorn. It's not the size of a peppercorn. It's about a quarter of the size of a peppercorn, and I get them to just put it in their mouth and chew it with their back teeth.
Yeah.
And I wait 5 to 10 seconds, and they go, "Oh shit!" Like it's
yeah.
You know, it just sort of the whole mouth warms up. It's warm. It's warm and it's chilly at the same time, but it's this crazy exotic thing. Now, if you distill Grains of Paradise on its own, you get something that smells like a toilet.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. You would not use it in gin if you distilled it on its own and decided. And when you're making gin, you distill a lot of things on their own because you want to know what they add.
Yeah.
But when you add it into the mix, it disappears. It has no aroma, which you smelt before when you distilled it singly. It disappears, and it creates this incredible minerality.
Okay.
And so the back of your throat is warm and dry and makes you want to drink more, actually, which is exactly how a good beverage should be.
Yeah, absolutely. And how many kind of recipes did you go through before you settled on this?
We probably went through about 90. Now, small batch, so we did them on a I've got a 10-liter copper still, which is tiny. It's like, 4 times the size of my head. And then I've got, and I did 1 liter batches, so tiny. To give you an idea of when we scaled up to our system, we have a 1,500 liter still. So 1 liters to 1,500, 1,500 times the size. So the recipe on a small scale is very, very different to the recipe on the big on the big system.
Yeah.
Obviously, you get your botanicals that you want to use, and you get the basic proportions. But just like cooking for 2 or cooking for 200, it's very different, and you don't linearly scale up the amount of sage you use, because you'll blow people's heads off.
Yeah.
Or green cardamom. If you took what I used in a small scale and you did that in the 1,500 litre pot, you just taste cardamom.
Yeah.
So it's quite a difficult thing. But yeah, it's sort of again, so we did a bunch of stuff on the big system, but the big system was quite scary, because every time you do a batch, you're using 1,000 litres of alcohol.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you got to watch it.
You gotta, you sort of, you start like,
yeah,
you're holding
I
your
can
breath
imagine.
and crossing every finger and toe. Yeah, it's quite hectic, but we got there in the end.
Amazing. Well, look, Braden, thank you very much for joining us. This is Renegade. It's on our website right now. As obviously, you get 15% discount for being with us tonight and being part of the tasting. And we look forward to obviously more of your products. We have your vodka as well now, don't we? I think we've got your vodka in the shop.
Yeah. So I've got them here. This is Baller. That's our vodka. It's a little Jack Russell beating some Dobermans at poker. and then little plug, because we're live. This is our new product. I've already put a tiny dent in that tonight. This is Doppelganger Aperitivo. It's quite you can't really see it there. It's a red sort of, there you go. And that's our Aperitivo, which is our rendition of, say, Aperol. And that came out actually last month. It's 2 weeks old, so we're looking forward to drinking some of that. It's beautiful just with soda. We like Baller, the vodka, actually, with ginger beer and lime. It's an unfiltered vodka, so it's for a connoisseur. It's not a house pouring vodka. If you want to drink vodka and Coke or something quite hectic together, then you just you choose something less expensive. But if you want something for a martini or for a beautiful classic cocktail, Baller is it's pretty hard to beat. So yeah, we're excited to be working with you guys. We're very happy to be in one of the best boutiques around. So thanks, Jazz.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
It's been a long time, but we've got there in the end.
We got there, mate. Yeah, and I can't wait to get you guys down. And anyone on this live feed, shoot me a message. We're going to start tours. Actually, not straight away, but when we do, it's going to be a lot of fun. We do festivals there once a month in normal circumstances. So with about 300-400 people in the front yard. So it's pretty exciting. And yeah, we'll definitely shout you a few, mate. So thanks for your support.
Definitely. Thank you very much. Well, look, thank your wife first as well for letting you join us this evening. And I bet you better get back to your celebration.
All right, then. Take care, guys.
Cheers, mate. Thank
Enjoy
you.
The gin.
Yeah,
Cheers.
take care. Thanks. Good man. So that is Braden with Doghouse Renegade Gin. Moving on, because obviously time is moving on. So we're going to jump straight into gin number 3. Empty your glass like so. And with this one, you would have been given a little pot of chai masala in your kit. So get some of that. And I'm going to bring on Sandeep, who quite close to us, I guess, down near Pinner. Hey, Sandeep, how are you?
Yes, I'm very good. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, I'm loving it. And I'm loving the Renegade label, by the way. So
it's really cool. It's really cool.
Standout label. Love it. So
this is you. This is sorry, we've written a big 3 on the label. There you go. Yours is better.
I think he's far too handsome to be me, to be honest. I aspire to be him in a few years. But yeah, no, I wanted to introduce Ginwala. So it's an original spiced, a chai spiced gin. I, of course, been brought up and lived in the UK most of my life. I'm a Londoner, so hence I love the label in particular on Renegade, but also come from an Indian sort of background. So every morning I'm having my chai tea, to start me up for the day. And I combined two of my loves, which is gin and chai, a few years ago. So I've always been a bit of a, I suppose, a corporate whore, working in commercial and marketing roles in big, large corporates. And I took a year and a half out, launched a family restaurant in northwest London, Bombay Central. If anyone's that way,
that's you.
That's my family restaurant.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. So and at the same time, I decided to put two of my loves together. I'm partnering with English Spirit Distillery, so it's a long-established distillery, award-winning distillery up in Essex. Master distiller, someone called John Walters, he's a biochemist from Cambridge. He's a bit of a science nut and a gin nut as well. So I think it's a perfect combination in order to get the gin right. And the gin's inspired by the chaiwalas in India and the family recipe that we still make at home. So the chaiwalas are these master craftsmen who sit in the street corners and serve chai to the masses in India. So they're brewing chai constantly and they're serving it out to people on their way to work. So it's the, I suppose, Starbucks equivalent. And we make our own chai masala at home. So my mum still roasts and grinds the spices, and that's what goes in our daily tea. And I wanted to capture some of that in a gin, and I think I've been successful. But I'm loving. I can't wait to hear from the.
Well, you know what? After I picked up from you the other day, I had to open a touch just so I could taste the gin. And I didn't do that with the others, but I was intrigued by this chai because I also got to smell your. Actually, we should tell people about.
We should open up the chai. Yeah.
So if you open your pot of this is actually the masala that you have in your morning chai, right? And I had it in mine the other day, and it was phenomenal.
Yeah. So what you have in there is so you roast the spices to really bring out the flavors, and then you grind them. And the way chai is made, proper chai, I'm not talking about the Starbucks sort of a weak sort of chai lattes you get. You put it in water, boiling water, with lots of sugar, and you add tea leaves and milk, bring it to the boil, let it simmer for 15, 20 minutes, the longer the better, and you get your early morning beautiful sort of spicy chai, and it just sorts you out for the day ahead, right? So I wanted to capture that creamy, spicy sweetness in a gin, and that's and as you. And I don't know if we're going through to the smelling of the gin and the tasting of the gin, but as soon as you open it up, as soon as you pour it into your glass, the first hit you're going to get is that sort of cardamom. So the nose is a little bit heavy on the cardamom, a little bit heavier on the cinnamon as well. So you get that sweetness of spice to start up. Once you start sipping it, then the sort of the black pepper and the ginger, the slightly spicier notes come through. But also chai is known for being creamy. So we try to look at how we can make it creamy. So I thought a nut would work really well. And we tried almonds. But the thing about almonds is it gets very, very bitter. So what we've ended up with is macadamia. So the little we've used is macadamia. So the macadamia nut, as you know, is a very creamy, sort of oily nut. And there's macadamia in here, which makes it very, very creamy. So made it very smooth, and a lot of people like drinking it neat. I've converted a lot of whiskey fans, so I've done 3 gin tastings with these hockey nuts, who are complete sort of big burly Sikh guys who love their whiskey and think gin's not right for them, and they are absolutely obsessed with it, and they drink it neat, and you can have it as a sort of pre-dinner or after dinner drink, as just a chai shot. So but when you add the tonic, which I'm sure we'll do so at some point, there's actually a Sam tea in there. So there's black tea. The tea opens up, so you get the tannins and the dryness of the tea as well. So it starts feeling like a proper chai when you add the tonic through.
Which we'll do in a sec. But yeah, you're right. On the nose, there's all that lovely cardamom. There's that cinnamon. And then I keep getting orange, but I don't know if there is any citrus in it.
There's a slight amount of citrus. I didn't want to overdo the citrus, so it took about 9 months to get the recipe just right, because there's intricacies around. So, for example, cardamom. A green cardamom has a very different taste to black cardamom. Black cardamom brings an aniseedy twist to it, which we don't really have in chai. The other thing is clove. In the chai spice you have there, you've got clove mixed in.
Yeah.
Now, putting clove in a gin is quite a harsh sort of taste. So we left out clove, but what we put in was vanilla to add further smoothness. Whereas in my chai mix, we don't use vanilla, right? So to make small adjustments to make sure the spiciness and the creaminess and the sweetness came through like a proper chai. And it was a long discovery. So it's a London dry, so nothing is added post distillation.
Yeah,
it's quite a purist way of making it. And as I said, John Walters is quite. He talks about being the Michelin-starred distillery in terms of how they try and distill their spirits. But what we tried to do is make sure that it was a London dry, make sure the juniper was there. We didn't want to lose the ginniness. And early versions of Ginwala were almost like a chai gin sort of liqueur, and I didn't want that. I wanted a proper gin.
Yeah.
And then when we dialed up the juniper and made sure we lost a bit of the chainess, so that balance was very, very delicate to try and achieve. But I'm hoping you agree that it's worked quite well. So
people are loving the comments are, people are loving it. They're getting some of that lovely creaminess. They're picking out some of that spice. Raj just says boil it up, so maybe we'd have to give that a go.
Do it, and if you need the recipe on how to, or the instructions on how to make a proper chai, make a chai tomorrow and then buy a bottle the following day, and you'll see, it coming through, right? So the other thing also is it works really well in a whole range of cocktails as well. So it's got into quite a few sort of established restaurants, so some really well-known sort of chefs. And so I don't like a beer with my Indian food. I like a gin and tonic, right? So
do you?
Yeah, I think beer just gets a bit heavy, whereas gin and tonic you can kind of go on all night, personally, right? So but because it's got things like ginger and black pepper and it's got those spices, it complements spicy food really, really well. So and quite a few of the restaurants have created their own signature cocktails. So Gunpowder, for example, you may know, does a really good Ginwala Negroni. So that orange and that spice from Ginwala works really, really nicely. So it works really good in a gin fizz as well, in a chai tini as well. So you just do it with a bit of chai sort of masala on top as well. It just it's a really good mix.
Negroni was my first obvious choice. That would be what I'm surprised about, and this is something that might surprise some of the people watching as well, that it's 45%.
It is.
And when you taste it, it doesn't punch you at 45%. It's almost just so smooth and creamy.
Yeah, and it was a prerequisite of mine that it has to be sippable neat. If it's not sippable neat, then I don't want anything disguising it. And we talked about, what's the ideal sort of ratio in terms of gin to tonic. I do a 1 to none or a 1 to 1 max, right?
Yeah.
I like tasting the gin, and although Fever Tree are friends of mine, and I disagree that three quarters is your tonic, and so of course it is. I agree with that, but at the same time, the gin has to speak.
It has to sing, exactly. Yeah. So let's do it. Let's add some tonic. So guys, we're going to add the regular Indian tonic. We're going back to the Fever Tree Indian tonic, and we're going to do, well, your suggestion of a 1 to 1 is probably a good starting point, and just let it open the spirit up and see what happens. And it kind of just, it's the same flavors but not closed. It's just lifted everything up.
Yeah. and you can probably taste a bit of dryness, and some of that is from the tonic, but some of that is from the gin as well, the tannins from the tea.
Right. Yeah.
I believe so. That's what I've tasted, and that's what others who've tasted it, who are in the know, kind of have fed back to me as well. So I think that Raj just mentioned that martini and Campari sort of mix. Absolutely right. That's another one that would work really well.
Maybe we can mix this with Braden's aperitivo.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great call. I mean, if there's orange sort of elements in there, that I think that would work really well. Yeah, and what else? There's something else. There's one other cocktail which works really, really well. Yeah, there's one that's a little bit out there, which is a dirty chai nightcap.
Okay.
It's Ginwala chai tea syrup. So if you make a real strong syrup, a sweet syrup with the chai tea that I've masala, espresso, milk, and you shake that up with ice, that is an amazing pick me up or an end of night sort of
okay.
dirty chai nightcap.
That's interesting.
So I'll try and I'll send you some recipes actually, so you can share with the teams here.
Okay, well, look, I guess whether you've added tonic or not, because a lot of people are preferring not to add the tonic at the moment. I think we should add the garnish. So you said orange, right? We've got an orange.
So orange peel is my favorite sort of option. I think orange peel, also grapefruit works really well. I think I'd edge away from the lemons and limes. It's not made for that sort of taste. I think the sweetness comes out a little bit more with the orange, and it just works. It just really, really well.
The orange works really nicely with it. I'm actually going to add the ginger as well, because
go for it. Yeah,
I just think it's such a good combination. Yeah. And you could add cinnamon with the orange. You could add some cloves or star anise, or any one of those spices with the orange. I think you need the orange. And I think then an addition of one of those other spices would just lift everything. So I'm going with ginger.
Yeah, I think the other one is pink peppercorn.
Oh yeah, okay.
Peppercorn works really, really nicely. It adds a little bit of bite because there's black pepper in the chai flavors, but pink peppercorn just is a little bit softer, a little bit kind of adds a little bit more sort of a bite to the drink. The other things, the other tonics that work really well, there's a clementine and cinnamon one that comes out now and again with Fever Tree. Yeah. That is absolutely beautiful with this. The aromatic one with pink peppercorn. So aromatic tonic, Ginwala, and pink peppercorns works well. And then this is one of the few gins, I believe, because I've tried it with a few, and it may be, I may turn a lot of people off with this, but especially during summer, if you want to try it with a ginger ale, it's one of the few gins that works really well with a ginger ale and a slice.
I do, yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Ginger ale, it will fly. It will do really well.
I can see it, and then I'd add a bit of lime, and I think I'll be done.
There you can add lime, or even a little bit of apple juice. Funnily enough, it's weird, but it just works. Pomegranate is the other one. So pomegranate seeds. Okay. I don't know why, but there's one restaurant that uses pomegranate and cucumber, and I got it there, and I just thought this isn't gonna, and it just worked really nicely with a standard tonic.
Yeah.
It's a versatile gin.
It's amazing because there's not that many gins like this sort of that spice, so it's really different. People are loving it, I think, tonight.
Oh, that's brilliant! Oh, thank you so much for the comments. I'm loving seeing them all. So thank you.
So, have you got any other products in the pipeline, or what's next?
Yeah, so there is there's two things. There is a rum,
okay.
Which is and I'm on the second or third sample of that, and we're already almost there. And that's That's tasting really good.
Yeah.
Spicy one. And then there's a quite another spicy gin, but it's a very different sort of concept to Ginwala.
Okay.
So nothing's there. There's also a something down the beer route as well, which I'm exploring. So, but you know, I'm taking it. I think it's probably going to be rum next, which I'm very, very excited about. I'm loving it. Yeah, and you know what? The important thing is, and we got it from Braden as well. And I was really inspired by his session. But you got to love the drink, right? You got to enjoy it. You got to open it up and really take to it. And I'm a fan of my own gin. I love other gins as well, and you know, and you got to enjoy it, right? So you make it yourself, and if you love it, then others will love it around you as well. And that's
I think that's right. I think that's absolutely right. You have to love it, right? You have to love it. Yeah. I'm thinking actually, neat. This was really good. Yeah,
neat. Like I said, after dinner, like a little chai hit. Like instead of espresso, you know, instead of having an after dinner espresso, you know, restaurants are serving a neat chai, voila, you know, and it just finishes off the evening nicely, and it just gives you that nice little warmth, and
So there was a couple of things. Raj, I'm sure, I don't know if he's joking, but he said, would a full-on ginger beer work? Jamaican ginger beer.
I've tried the Idris extra fiery. I thought I was just experimenting. And I tried the extra. There's a Idris extra fiery version with a slice of ginger, and it worked really, really nicely because it's got ginger in there. It complements it quite nicely. You can even do that with a spicy red chili as a garnish. It could work quite nicely.
Okay. That sounds quite good. Yeah, that sounds really good.
Ginger ale, and there's a bitter orange ginger ale from Fever Tree, which works really, really nicely with it. So
amazing.
And there's sodas as well. There's a few sodas they're doing as well, which complement it really, really nice as well. So
So you have to let us know when the rum's going to be out as well. You know,
we're hoping by June. We'll have that up and you know, in stores. So you guys will be one of the first with it, of course. So
no worries.
Yeah,
Sandeep, that's short and sweet, but you know what? You've hit the mark, and the gin's been really good.
No, thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me along, and thanks everyone for your comments. And I look forward to more sort of sessions.
I'll just show you this. So this is the Ginwala. Love the label, and then on the back you've got a little list of the spices and the ingredients. And this is now also on our website. Obviously, everyone gets a 15% discount as normal, and
brilliant.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jess. Thanks, everyone.
Friday, enjoy. All right. Cheers, Sandeep. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
All right. There you go. Finish that last bit off. So that was our gin number 3, and there was. I think it was Nick. Nick who said 1, 2, 3, and 4 all in order. I know it's a shock. It is a shock, but we are on gin number 4, the final one of the evening. So we are going to bring on Jason, and another new gin. Hopefully you've put it in the freezer and you've just got it out now. Hey, Jay, how you doing, mate?
Not too bad, Jess. Yourself, how are you?
Very good, very good. So you're actually joining us from Ireland, right?
That's right, yeah. I'm in a small village just north of Dublin called Malahide. So been living over here for about 4 years or so.
Amazing. So look, this is this cool little funky bottle called Blood Monkey, and this is number 4. You can get it out your fridge or freezers right now. Mine has warmed up a touch, but we had to bring this in because it was something different, something really new, and there's a great story behind it. So I'm going to let you go ahead and tell us about it.
Yeah, super, Jazz, and thanks for the opportunity this evening. Really interested also in what the other guys were saying. Look forward to getting my hands on Sandeep's chai gin as well. It sounds amazing. This is our first gin that we've launched. I think we're probably the the baby of the gins that are being shown this evening. So we only launched in June of last year. You'll also see in your bottle that you've got batch number 1 as well. So we do it in small batches as well, and we've actually just done our second batch, which is super. But yeah, we're relatively new. And I guess really the first question that people kind of ask us is, where did the name Blood Monkey come from? So Blood Monkey is a derogatory naval term for a seafarer who used to drill a hole into the ship's grog barrel and basically steal all of the alcohol out of it. So we thought that was a really nice kind of story. Also as well, it's a term that comes from Holland and the Lowlands, and that's essentially where we took inspiration from for our Irish malted gin. So it's a Geneva style gin, similar to Sandeep's Gin Walla. It's designed to be drunk neat. It obviously finds its way into gin and tonics and finds its way into spirit forward cocktails as well. And we can talk about the tonics a bit later on. But I guess really what we've sought to do is to find a gin that is genuinely enjoyed when it's drunk neat. But also as well, it has a slightly more malty kind of taste profile to it that marries up really nicely with the unique mix of botanicals that we have in there. So in terms of the botanicals that we have, we've only got 8 botanicals in there. Tried to keep it relatively simple, but also relatively hard hitting in there. So as opposed to a neutral grain spirit, we use a Irish barley spirit, and then that is then distilled with juniper, coriander, citrus peel, those kind of usual suspects. But I guess really in terms of bringing some citrus notes in, we use lime leaves. For an earthiness, we bring in Irish rosemary. And then for that kind of spice element that you might be smelling, that kind of slightly, spicy, potentially slightly caramelly, that's actually Szechuan pepper. So all of our botanicals, bar the Szechuan pepper and the lime leaves, come from Ireland. And so what we've just sought to do is just to kind of bring something new to the gin market that will obviously be hopefully a crowd pleaser for people that are looking to mix it with tonic, we obviously know over the last year or so people have become home mixologists as well. But my preferred serve is out of the freezer or out of the fridge, chilled, or just have it served over an ice cube. So again, very similar to what a couple of the other guys were saying, is that we're trying to change up the way that people think about gin, but in the fact that it could actually be swapped out for the occasions where you're thinking about an Irish whiskey. And we obviously all know how successful Irish whiskey has been over the last probably 5 to 7 years or so. But we launched in June of last year. We're available in over 100 outlets here in Ireland. We're moving into the UK, with yourselves and also with others as well, which is great. Mm-hmm. And we're essentially just going to keep it within these 2 islands for the foreseeable future. We're starting to have conversations over in the States there as well. That seems to be going quite well. But shall we maybe pour ourselves a shot or two and maybe talk to the liquid?
Yeah. There's a lot going on, right? There's a lot. That initial juniper is kind of very much overtaken by other stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And just because we like to do things differently, I'm actually serving mine in a whiskey glass as well. So I guess really, just in terms of its appearance, clear, water white, there is some legs on it. There's a little bit of viscosity that you would probably, feel on the mouth. From a nose perspective, we'd probably say it's medium to kind of medium plus in terms of pronouncement. So again, not overpowering, but you can definitely tell there's something going on in there as well. From a palate perspective, we'd say it's dry to off dry, but I guess really we like to think that we're just slightly different in terms of the smooth texture you get, probably akin to some whiskies there as well. And then I'm sure people are enjoying it now as well. But from a finish perspective, we'd probably see it as a kind of medium finish, with some complexity, which is probably a little bit uncommon within dry gin. So we're just trying to do things a little bit differently with the botanical mix that I spoke about. And what you really kind of feel on the palate really, in terms of the aftertaste, is that smoky caramel whiskey-esque flavor that you get through from the mix of the Irish barley, but also the Szechuan pepper as well.
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's go for a taste, and maybe on this particular one, kind of going back to what we did at the start, we'll just take a little sip first, and then go for a second sip to kind of get a bit more of the.
So just while you're doing that, just in terms of where it's distilled down in West Cork, in Skibbereen, pretty much next stop America. I think you can see the Atlantic from the distillery doors. It's distilled by a lady called Deirdre Bahan. She's the head distiller down there. And myself and Deirdre went through 13 or 14 rounds of recipe development before we got to a liquid that I was really happy with. They're a fantastic distiller partner of ours. You'll also be pleased to know that we're also looking at a couple of other variants of Blood Monkey as well. So one that's going to be a summer edition that's specifically going to be lime leaf forward, and also looking at a winter edition or an autumn edition that's going to be more around a kind of like a burnt orange or burnt clementine. We've only been launched 9 months. We're getting some great feedback. Fantastic to see some of the comments that are coming through. So thanks for that, guys. But yeah, I think overall, we're really pleased just to be dipping our toe in the great wide world of gin, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's made, so again, really different, right? Because your base spirit is barley.
That's for sure, yeah.
So it's got, again, a different type of creaminess. And is that the inspiration to have it neat? Was that part of that thought process?
Yeah, pretty much so. So, we were kind of thinking about, how can you make this, as palatable as palatable as possible if we are going to be recommending that our signature serve is going to be neat or over ice. And, with all due respect to London dry gins, they can be quite harsh, particularly those with a slightly higher ABV. So, so we went for the barley spirit to basically give it that smooth texture, but also as well, it adds to that kind of slightly smoky caramel kind of aftertaste finish that you get there as well. So, and then that works really, really nicely, we think, with, the kind of slightly more robust botanicals in there, the likes of the rosemary, the Szechuan pepper, for example.
Yeah, I think Shane picked out potentially some of that smokiness as well. Yeah. So what does that Szechuan pepper do? Does it add more character? Is it actually adding? What was the thinking behind that?
Yeah, it just brings a slight bit of spiciness to it. So we don't use bucket loads of the stuff. We just want something in there just to have your palate dancing a little bit. But what we've essentially brought that in for is to kind of give it that smoky yet also kind of like sharp pepper hit that you would probably get off some whiskies, or maybe even some rums as well. What we essentially just try to do with our gin is to be inspired by the Genevers of old from the Netherlands, but also as well try and bring something new to the Irish and British kind of like gin lovers palate, to help them to explore that there is life beyond dry gin. There is life beyond flavored gins, for example, or pink gins, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with them because they're great, but we just thought we'd just try and do things a bit differently, that's all.
Yeah, it's working really well. It's working really well. So let's add the garnish and see what that does. So I've asked everyone to get a piece of lime, because I think you said grapefruit works quite nicely as well, but
yeah, so I've got a piece of grapefruit here, Jazz. I've got a bit of rosemary, got a bit of ginger. So again, there's no hard and fast rule as to how you enjoy this. I've got a lime here, luckily, so let me just get a piece of peel off there as well. And again, this will work really, really well with our lime leaves version that's going to be hopefully coming out later on this year. We've just done 1 or 2 rounds of recipe development, but you really don't need much more than that. You don't want it to be overpowered. You don't want a kind of a fruit salad in there, basically. But I actually like to just rub the rim of the glass with the back side of the peel, or it's just drop it in.
Yeah,
very, very
it's
simple.
lovely. Yeah, just like that. Yeah, perfect. I think grapefruit would work really nicely as well. I'm personally not a fan of grapefruit, which is why I went for lime. But I think, as you said, you've got a few different ingredients there that you could add to complement it. I think it's really good, neat. And if you were to add a tonic, what would you do?
Yeah, so I mean, it works really well with any premium tonic, to be honest. But our kind of go-to would be, either a Fever Tree kind of clementine, or one that I just picked up today was the London Essence Bitter Orange.
Yeah.
But also as well, and actually very similar to Sandeep's Chaiwala. It goes pretty well with a ginger beer as well.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
again, the same way that you would maybe use a ginger beer to do a rum, dark and stormy, or it goes really, really well with whiskey. The fact that you've got that barley kind of base, the fact that you've got some pretty robust botanicals in there, it can hold itself up to a ginger beer as well. And very, very similar as well to what I think one of the other guys said, is that we would actually probably look at 1 to 1.5 to 1 to 2 in terms of the it's a gin that's that doesn't need to hide behind a tonic. It's a gin that doesn't need to have a huge amount of garnish to it. So we kind of feel as if it's complex enough.
I'm loving it. I've had that lime, and to me, it's just turned really. Oh, it's just so good. It's come up with a flavour. I'm getting almost like this creamy coconut. I'm getting that, maybe it's that barley working and that creaminess. It's really
there's a
fresh.
real bit of creaminess to it. There's a nice mouth feel. There's a nice mouth covering, if you like, in terms of viscosity that you sometimes don't get with let's say fairly simply made gins. But we're just trying to do something different, really.
Yeah, it's really good. So what made you, because you launched in 2020, right? June 2020.
2020, yeah, literally pretty much in the eye of the storm of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So we did our first production run in March of last year. I think it was March the 13th, with a view to then launching, first week in April. And as luck would have it, or as I'm in Ireland, as Murphy's Law would have it, on the 14th of March, the whole country shut down. So we found ourselves sat on a load of stock and not really sure what to do or how the pandemic would play out. And then we realized that, we kind of got into, Blood Monkey to actually, sell some gin and to actually bring something new to the gin category. So, in June of last year, literally just, put 4 or 5 cases in the back of the car and started to drive around all the key independents in Dublin. And we started to get some really good feedback, good rate of sale. We're very lucky. We've now just been teamed up with a really good distribution partner here in Ireland that's going to see us hopefully get into a good few places, but the right places. But we're actually just really looking forward to the on-premise opening up again. So I know that in the UK, you guys are lucky enough that everything's opening up on Monday. I think we're probably 1 or 2 months behind you guys. So we should be hopefully seeing this out in bars and cocktail clubs probably around June or July or so.
Yeah. Anthony said he also got the coconut element, so I'm glad I'm not the only one, because that really, really comes through for me. So now I can say that with confidence. And maybe a touch of lemongrass. I don't know if it's meant to be this type of gin at all, but it's really got a lot of flavors.
Yeah. So again, just in terms of our botanicals, juniper, orris root, angelica, coriander, Irish rosemary, Szechuan pepper, and lime leaves. That's it. That's pretty much it. And then we've obviously got the Irish barley backbone to that as well. So we're pretty happy with where we've got to, and absolutely delighted with some of the comments that are people enjoying it neat, which is great.
Yeah, and it's really different. So that with a cube of ice would just be a great way to just end the evening, wouldn't it? Just a nice
end the evening or start the evening. So
start the evening.
For sure.
Yeah. There was one question. What is the FFS poster behind you?
Sorry. Oh, this is no worries at all. So that way. Sorry, I got a new laptop the other. Yeah. So basically, our kind of view on the gin category is there's a with respect to a lot of the other gins out there, there's a good bit of nonsense out there in the way in which brands kind of talk about themselves. We're kind of like, do you know what? Just cut the bull. Just tell people how it is. Just try and make things really simply. So how another brand might talk is our gin has fabulous flavors to savor. We're just like, well, FFS to that basically. So that's just what we're trying to do, is just bring something different. But you can tell that I'm a marketeer at heart.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, it's really good. It's really, really good gin, and it's so nice to have a gin that you can have neat like this. Yeah, it's beautiful. Really good. I'm glad you're using. I'm a whiskey fan, so to have the barley as the base, I think is really good.
That's
So
great.
great, Jason. Thank you very much for joining us.
Cheers, Jas, and thanks
for
to everyone for the comments.
And guys, that is the bottle. This amazing, fantastic looking bottle, Blood Monkey. Actually, you know what? I was surprised because I had to double take. I thought it was a 500, but it's actually a 70.
It is, yeah. So this is a bottle that, you know, apart from the Szechuan pepper, the only other thing that we don't get in Ireland is the bottle. The bottle comes from Italy. And yeah, we go to one specific manufacturer that has allowed us to decorate this bottle the way in which we have. So no paper being used. Again, while we're not a eco or green forward brand, our ESG creds are really important to us. So 55% recycled glass, you know, recycled and also compostable stopper. You know, you can literally throw that in your garden in a year's time. It won't be there anymore. So yeah, so no, it's a fairly small but punchy and robust bottle that is a 70 CL.
That's amazing, and also it's also on our website, up for sale. So you get your usual 15% discount. So guys, if you liked any of the gins tonight, then jump on there, get your 15% discount. And Jason, thank you very much for joining us and taking your time out. And hopefully we'll get more of this in, and we'll see some other products that you might be bringing along the way.
Yeah, super stuff. Just very similar to what Sandeep said as well. You know, obviously we have the other two gins that we're looking at, but we're also exploring a rum at the moment. So you know, there are so many other rum producing countries other than the Caribbean, and there's some great ones that come from the Caribbean. Don't get me wrong, but you know, there's some really interesting other interesting rum producers out there, and we feel that by being able to potentially put an Irish twist on that, possibly by having it, you know, it could, for example, be matured in an Irish whiskey barrel or something like that, could be something quite interesting. So yeah, that's a little bit further down the road, but something we're looking at too.
Yeah, good. Well, look, Jason, thank you very much. Thanks for telling us about Blood Monkey. Really good gin. We absolutely love it. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you very soon.
Super, Jas. Thanks, guys. Have a great Friday.
Yes. Thank you. Bye. Bye. So, guys, that is our 4 gins, all new to us. And hopefully, well, by the comments, I think you've enjoyed them. Shane, unfortunately, didn't get. He left his. You left your samples at the shop. So if you're in St Albans, you'll probably find 4 samples sitting on the barrel outside our shop. First one there can have them.
I know exactly where it is. It's literally in the box by the door on the barrel, because I picked up the sets I was delivering to Alan Melinda and put that box down and didn't pick it back up. So,
oh dear. Well, they're not going to be in there in the morning, that's for sure, because I'm sure like Anthony's going to be first up there.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, we've got all of those bottles are on the site. So I think overall it's been a good introduction to 4 new amazing gins. So hopefully there'll be a few people after some gins after. Use the code for your tasting card, guys, and take 15% off, which is just a massive discount to obviously put these into your collection. So take those. Yeah, I think every single one is on the site. If you just search the brand name in the search bar, that will come up for you. In terms of future tastings, I know a few people have been asking. We are, over the weekend, we will confirm 3 different tastings in. So we're hopefully going to book in a rum tasting, gin, and a whiskey. So look out for the emails. As a heads up, I believe the whiskey is going to be on the 30th of April. Then the week after, we're looking at a gin and a rum tasting. So look out for that email, guys. I know a lot of people, especially been after the rum one, so that's going to be great. The next gin one will be kind of an introduction into summer, because we are moving into summer. We're opening up. Everyone's going to be looking for some great gins to have in the garden, or even take out for a little picnic. And then whiskey, I think it's going to be a mixed one, Jas, wasn't it? A few Irish, a few Scottish, I believe.
Yeah, we're trying to work in a few. We're trying to work in a few. So John also asked if we can do vodka. We can do vodka if there's enough, enough uptake on the vodka, then we're happy to do it. We'll probably do them as a martini, though. I'd imagine.
Yeah, vodka's always better done with like cocktail offerings. I think is always good for that.
But we can do. It's something we absolutely can do.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, thanks very much. Thanks for joining us.
Cool.
And yeah, as Shane said, look out for the emails for our next few tastings coming up over the next couple of weeks, and we might see you all very soon.
Cool. Have a good evening, guys. Thanks, Jules, for the comment there. Just so that, well, done our best to help you have a great year. So yeah, appreciate that. I did like the running comments, by the way, from Nick and Donna about the plum for you, Jess, because I take it that was down to an email that you sent out changing the garnishes. I did notice that.
I got confused with the tasting I got tomorrow night, and I added plum in there. And I was like, "That's what you kept going on."
Yeah. They've all got plums with nothing to do with the plums.
nothing to do with plums. Yeah, but cool. There you go.
All right. See you later, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thank
you.
Like
I said, look out for those emails and have a good weekend. See you later. Bye.
All right.